you know it? Next week, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, who remembers what we were talking about last week?
There's some pills.
Pills? Are they yours?
No. I don't take
All
it.
right, no, we should never take pills that we don't know what they are because who knows, you might be allergic to them or might be too strong for your age, who knows? All right, what did we talk about last week? We forgot already. Did we talk about Santa Claus?
No.
Of course not. Did we talk about the Easter Bunny?
No.
What did we talk about? Had to do with Christmas.
Wait, I know this one.
Juliana?
Kids thing. Yeah, I forgot.
Oh.
What? Is it the birth of Jesus?
We started to talk about the birth of Jesus, but we didn't talk about Jesus actually being born last week. What did we talk about? We talked about somebody else being born.
Elizabeth and Mary having a baby.
Okay. And was it a miracle for Elizabeth to have a baby?
Yes.
Why was it a miracle? You're
She
right.
was old.
She was really old enough to be a grandma. You don't see grandmas having babies, do you? That is amazing, but God can do anything. Now, who did the angel tell that the baby was going to be born?
Is a boy.
Right, he said it would be a boy. And who did he tell that the baby would be born and that it would be a boy? Do you remember?
Was his name something like Isaiah? And he was a priest.
Zacharias. Zacharias. It was his daddy. Did his dad believe? No, so what did the angel tell him would happen? Because he didn't believe that.
If he comes out of that room, he can't speak until the baby's born.
Oh, that would be so hard, 9 months. That's a long time to not talk. Sometimes we might think of somebody who we wish they wouldn't talk for a while, right? But can you imagine yourself not being able to talk for 9 months? Okay, and then that was the angel named, who told Zacharias? The angel named? Gabriel. And Gabriel also appeared to someone else. Juliana? Oh, I thought you had your hand up in there.
Elizabeth's cousin?
Elizabeth's cousin, who was named? Mary. And he told Mary that she too would have a baby. Now, why would it be a miracle for Mary to have a baby? Well, she's young, but
She's gonna be the mother of Jesus.
she's going to be the mother of Jesus.
She doesn't have a husband.
She doesn't have a husband. She's only engaged to be married. She's not actually married yet. But the angel told her about her cousin Elizabeth, who was too old to have a baby, was already 6 months pregnant. And then he said, for with God, nothing is impossible. God can do anything, can't he? And then Mary was so excited that she decided she had to tell somebody the good news. Would other people be really excited with her? No. Because if she told people, I'm going to be pregnant and I'm not married, they would look down on her and think she was a bad kind of girl. So she knew who would understand. Elizabeth. So she went to visit Elizabeth. And then she stayed there for 3 months. And then she went home. John the Baptist was born, but did people think that it was strange that his name was John?
Yes.
Yeah, what did they think his name should be?
Zacharias after his father.
That's right. Why did they name him John, though? Why not name him Zacharias? Ivana?
Because God tells him to.
That's right. And Zacharias wanted to obey God. What if he didn't obey God? Do you think he'd go the rest of his life without talking? I don't know. But he did believe God now, and so he obeyed God. Well, Mary went back home, and she was 3 months pregnant. Do you think she might need to tell her fiance, Joseph? that she's pregnant?
Yeah.
Do you think she was looking forward to telling him?
No.
Well, she knew she had to do it. So she, one day after she got back home to Nazareth, to the city where she was from, and she told Joseph, I have something important to tell you. And I want you to listen really carefully. An angel, Gabriel, came to me and he told me that I'm going to have... Come on in. All right. Good deal. I'm going to have a baby and I'm already pregnant with the baby. And the baby would be the promised Savior that God has been promising us for so many, many, many years. He would be the Savior, the Son of God. Now Joseph thought, this is awful strange. I mean, who ever heard of a girl getting pregnant and having the Son of God? That's a strange story, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he wasn't sure, should I believe her or shouldn't I? The Bible tells us that he loved her, so he didn't want her to get in too much trouble, because back then, do you know what could happen to a girl who got pregnant without being married? They could stone her to death. Well, he didn't want that to happen to her, so he thought about just breaking off the engagement privately. And as he thought about it, he just couldn't bring himself to do it. And one night while he was not able to sleep because he was just so troubled about it, he had a dream. And God spoke to him in the dream. And he said, Joseph, go ahead and take Mary as your wife, and really do it immediately. Because what she has told you is true. The baby that she is going to have is going to be that promised Messiah, the promised Savior, the Son of God. And I want you to call his name Jesus. Do you know what the name Jesus means?
No. Is it Savior?
Exactly. Jesus means Savior. And then and God went on in the dream to say, thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. Wow. Joseph was fully awake now. And he thought, goodness gracious, God has talked to me as well as Mary about this special baby. This baby really is going to be special. And so Joseph obeyed God, and he married Mary straight away. And together they began to prepare for the baby's coming. I think Joseph tried to get more carpenter jobs. He worked extra hard. Mary was sewing. They would spend time together as much as they could. Well, one day, while they were working, Joseph seemed like he was troubled about something. Mary just kept looking at him. And then finally Joseph said, Mary, I have some bad news. Oh, Joseph, what is it? You know the Caesar, the Roman Emperor Caesar Augustus? He's made a new law that we have to obey. We can't disobey it. We'll be in so much trouble. But the thing is we have to do it pretty much right away. And you are so close to having the baby that I just don't know. I'm worried about it. She said, Joseph, well, what are you talking about? He said, we have to go back to the city that our forefathers or our ancestors are from. And we're both of the family of King David. Do you guys remember where King David was from when he was just a shepherd boy? He was from the town of
Bethlehem.
Bethlehem, that's right.
How do they know that their ancestors was David? Because they didn't have DNA tests.
That's a good question, actually, Lucas. The Jews were very careful to keep really good records of who their ancestors were. It was important to all of them, but of course, especially those who would count King David as their ancestor, sorry. But they all knew who their father and grandfather and great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather. You just keep right on going, that's right. And so that's how they knew. So Mary said, I don't understand it either. But if we have to obey, somehow God will protect us. He'll protect his son, the baby. And so they, as quickly as they could, I don't know if it took them one day or if it took them 1 week to prepare for the journey, but it was going to be a journey of 85 miles. Now, do you guys think in miles or kilometers? Kind of kilometers, don't you? Well, 85 miles is about 136, 37 kilometers. That would be as far as walking from here to Athlone. Athlone is almost to the other side of Ireland. It's a long ways away, and it wasn't a straight, flat road. They lived in the hill country. They were going to Bethlehem, which was also in hill country. So were the roads just nice and flat? They were up and down and up and down and rocky because they didn't have cars, so they didn't make paved roads. They didn't have buses. They didn't have trains. But what did Joseph have that Mary could ride? A donkey, that's right. And so they set out on the donkey. And it took them, nobody knows exactly, but they think it took them at least 5 days. It could have taken them a little bit longer than 5 days. It took them several days because they had to walk. Well, Mary rode, but Joseph walked. And you know, Mary would get really tired. Are any of you old enough to remember when your mom was pregnant for somebody younger than you? Like, when you get really big pregnant, oh, it's almost time for the baby to come, you're just always tired. So she was tired just because of that. But then, you know, as they were going up, she'd have to hang on real tight so she didn't fall off the back of the donkey. And as they were going down, she had to brace herself so she didn't slide down and go right over the donkey's head. So she was glad she could ride, but it was still something that made her tired. And then there weren't hotels along the way. They had to sleep on the ground. I think the ground was nice and soft. No, I don't think so either. They probably tried to find the spot had the least amount of rocks, but it still wasn't pleasant. Well, after several days, they saw in the distance a little town, and it had lights on. That's it, Mary. That's Bethlehem. Oh, Joseph, hurry up. Make this donkey go faster. Do donkeys go fast? No. And if you try to make them go fast, what do they usually do? Well, they finally got there. They finally got the donkey to go to Bethlehem. And when they got there, they were surprised. Now they knew they weren't the only ones that were descendants of King David and other people that were from Bethlehem, but they just weren't thinking about how many people would be there. The whole town was crowded with lots of people. People that had come on camels and donkeys and maybe even horses and wagons. And of course, a lot of people had to walk. And Joseph thought, oh, Mary, we need to hurry up and find a place right away. First thing we're going to do is find a place for you to sleep, because it'll be so nice for you to be able to sleep in a bed tonight. It's okay for me if I don't get to, but we need you in a bed. You think Mary thought so too?
Yeah.
Would you want to sleep in a bed too after sleeping on the ground?
Yeah.
I would too. Well, back in those days, they did have an inn, which is sort of like a hotel today, but a little different the way they did the hotels. But most of the time they would come into a town and they would just knock on a door and ask somebody, can you give me a place to sleep? Well, they did that. They knocked all around the town trying to find a place to stay. And what did everybody say to them? No room. We are completely full. But if you go to the inn, you can probably get a room there. But when they got to the inn and they knocked on the door, the innkeeper said, no, I don't have any beds left. I don't have any cots left. I don't even have any floor space left. People are wrapping themselves up in blankets and sleeping on the floor. And they built their houses kind of like in a square with an open space in the middle, they would call it courtyard. And there's even people sleeping in the courtyard. I just have no room for you. This is the last place for them to check for a room. And Joseph, he was responsible, wasn't he? Because he was the husband, he was the man. He was supposed to take care of his wife, especially his pregnant wife. So he put his head down. He thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Oh God, help me. As he started to turn away, very sad, the innkeeper said, oh, I have an idea. It's not a very good idea, but maybe it's better than sleeping outside under the stars. I mean, if it rains, you'd at least have a roof over your head, and it could be warm, and it would keep you safe from the wild animals. I have a stable out back, and any travelers that are staying in my inn that have animals, they're keeping the animals in there. So there's donkeys and cows and sheep in there. Well, you could sleep in there. Do you think Joseph and Mary got super excited about sleeping in a barn? I don't know if they got super excited, but I bet they were glad they had some place to stay. So Joseph took Mary back there, and as best they could, they tried to get the animals away from one little corner, and they tried to make it as clean as they could. They got some hay, probably laid some hay on the ground, probably put their coats over top of that hay, make it as comfortable as possible. They were exhausted, so they went to sleep. And during that night, while everybody else was asleep in beds or inside a house, God sent his son, Jesus Christ. He was born that very night in a stable, or we might say a barn. Would you expect God's son to be born in a barn or in a stable? No, if it went according to our idea of the story, where would Jesus be born?
In the palace.
In a palace, that's right. But God allowed his son to be born in a stable. And we'll talk more about next week, probably why God allowed them to go to the barn and the baby to be born in the barn.
Is it because when the gospel or the prophet said where the baby is going to be born, and for example, if Augustus didn't set those rules, that the prophet would said that he would be born in Bethlehem in a manger. So, so if they didn't go to Bethlehem and then sleep in the stable, then it wouldn't go according to the prophets.
You're right. So sometimes when things in our life don't go according to what we think the plan should be, it's really according to whose plan? God's plan. And it was the perfect plan for Jesus Christ being born. Well, we will continue more of the story next week. But here is the verses. A verse, sorry. Lucas, can you hand these out?
Okay. Oh, no.
Here a toilet key.
Yeah, but I asked.
It's very short.
No, it's
If you
not.
break it up into
Oh
three
my
pieces.
goodness, it's
Yes,
so
there you go.
It's like 1 9. Wow.
Okay.
So
So last week's verse, you guys know it, right? You said it. What was last week's verse?
all this was the Bible fulfilled, which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet saying.
Okay. Yeah. So by the prophet saying, and this is what the prophet said, okay? What did the prophet say? Behold, a virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. Here, chapter 1, verse 23.
It's just reading this.
Yeah, because that's the next verse.
Yep, exactly. So next week, we're gonna work on saying both of them together. So we'll review both verses next week.
If you say this week, do you still get the monkeys?
Of course, of course. Okay, so let's say this together a few times and then we'll let you guys say it. Ready? Behold, a virgin shall be with child and shall bring forth a son and shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. Matthew chapter 1, verse 23. Let's do it again. Behold, a virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. Matthew chapter 1, verse 23. Okay, Lucas.
Behold, a virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us.
Very good.
Matthew chapter 1, verse 22.
Okay, Juliana.
Behold, a virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel,
Which being interpreted.
is God with us. Matthew chapter 1, verse 23.
Okay. Zach?
Behold, a virgin shall be with child and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. Matthew chapter 1, verse 23. Behold, a
Virgin?
virgin shall be with child and shall bring forth a son, and thus
They shall
they shall call his name
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel, which being
Interpreted.
interpreted is God with us. Matthew chapter 1, verse
23.
23.
Isaac?
Behold, a virgin be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. Matthew chapter 1, verse 22.
Isaiah?
Behold, a virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. Matthew chapter 1, verse 23. Behold, a virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. Matthew chapter 1, verse 23.
Okay, very good.
What does your name mean when it's interpreted?
Beth means, Elizabeth means like oath of God or Bethel means house of God, so Beth means house. I've heard oath of God, I've heard oath of the house of God, I don't know, something about oath, like promise,
Yeah.
and God and house.
Wow.
C-E-L-L, that's God. And then Beth is house, and somehow
My word means light.
light. That's a good meaning.
I did not know what
Can you
that
play tic-tac-toe?
Tic-tac-toe, okay, let's turn off the, let's say goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye,
Goodbye.
FBI.
I have to
Okay.